Hello, friends and fellow seekers. Welcome back to the Law of One Spiritual Advice podcast. My name is Elle, and today we are going to be talking about perception and the widening of the viewpoint, and like being overwhelmed, sort of the nature of the third density that we are in. A lot of us will deal with being overwhelmed, and we're maybe looking at everything a little too close when maybe we should just be backing up to widen the viewpoint of perception so that we can come to a better understanding of the truth of what is. So this is what we shall speak of today. If you appreciate my service in this area of podcast, all that, this wonderful stuff, if you could please give the podcast a like, that definitely helps it be seen by other people in the black magic algorithm that exists on the internet, where, the internet seeks to distract you, but I seek to serve. So here we are. So I have a couple of quotes lined up from the raw material, and then also just some personal stories and examples from myself, where I was reminded yesterday of the widening of the viewpoint. And basically what happened was I saw a new show, which you may have heard of or seen before. It's called Love on the Spectrum, and it is a show where people who have varying levels of, different types of autism or Down syndrome, they, are trying to find love and trying to date and to make their way in this world and grow. And it was such a lovely reminder of myself, of all of the things that I worry about and fret and frown over on a daily basis. And then you see other people whose lives are a lot more challenging, and just the grace and the beauty in which they, keep pushing on and trying to be better people and trying to, experience love. And so that was basically what made me think of this idea. There's a specific person on that show. His name is Tanner, if you've seen it. And if not, you probably should, because it's just so heartwarming. I haven't watched a show where I almost have a little tear in my eye every 30 seconds. So this Tanner individual, he's such a lovely person, and he has autism, and he, has a lot of issues with sort of taking cues from other people, emotional cues from other people. But then he's just the most he's just like a big ball of light and love, and he's smiling, and he's just giving such lovely energy to everyone. And even in the show, his mom says that what he wanted to do growing up was that he just wanted to be a source of light and laughter and joy for other people. And he really is, even with all his challenges that he has. And me, being a fairly, I suppose, normal person, if you will, I have all of my issues that I deal with. None of us are immune to being perfect and happy and content at all times. But it was just such a beautiful reminder to see someone who has all of these challenges still gracefully trying to be the best thing that they can be. And it really helps put my issues in perspective, in that my my issues aren't nearly as difficult as his are, and yet he does it with joy and love in his heart. And it's just so heartwarming to see, and it really sort of give me a good kick in the butt, hey, I need to smarten up and not worry so much. And so, yeah, this is what we're going to talk about. And we're going to talk about how to sort of disassociate from these overwhelming things in our lives, which seem to be, always pushed in our face, and we're always thinking about them, and we're being overwhelmed with experience. And it can just be a nice reminder to step back and go, okay, you know what? All is well. Maybe I don't have it so difficult. There's a lot of people out there who have a lot more difficult challenges than I do. And yet look at how, wonderful of a person they are, and happy and smiling and continuing on trying their best. And so I shall do the same. With the cards that I have been dealt, we shall all just try our best. So that reminded me of a quote from the raw material. It's from session 99.5, and Ross states, "As in all distortions, the source is the limit of the viewpoint." Okay, So any distortion is basically something that pulls you away from knowing that all is well, that, the creator is everywhere, we are the creator, everyone is the creator, everything is the creator, and all is well within this experience, even when it sort of seems that it's not. And the reason for that is that, we're sort of looking at everything with a magnifying glass and over-focusing on possibly the negative, and instead of, trying to have hope and faith that what we're doing here makes sense, okay? So that's the main point that I would like to get across to you. But then they also continue on in the session after in the raw material. The questioner says in session 100.9, it would also seem to me that since Ross stated in the last session, the limit of viewpoint is the source of all distortions, that the very nature of the service to self distortions that create the left-hand path, in other words, the negative path, are a function of the veil, and therefore are dependent, you might say, to some degree, on at least a partial continued veiling. Does this make any sense? Ra answers, I am Ra. There is a thread of logic in what you suppose. The polarities are both dependent upon a limited viewpoint. However, the negative polarity depends more heavily upon the illusory separation betwixt the self and all other mind-body-spirit complexes. The positive polarity attempts to see through the illusion to the creator in each mind-body-spirit complex, but for the greater part is concerned with behaviors and thoughts directed towards other selves in order to be of service. This attitude in itself is full of the stuff of your third density illusion. So, I don't want to get into too much of the negative path and the veil and all of that, because I would assume if you're listening to this, you're on the positive path, and so you're seeking to do well and to polarize positively in your spiritual seeking. And so I just wanted to highlight that part about the positive polarity. So even though we are here in the illusion of third density and we are here to be confused, sort of the goal of what we're attempting to do is to see through that illusion. We want to see through the illusion to the creator in each person, but for the greater part, we're going to be concerned with behaviors and thoughts directed towards others in order to be of service. So, we want to be in a good behavioral and a good emotional state, and so that we're giving good thoughts, right, of positive intent towards other selves, so that we're not playing the victim and being like, oh, this place is so bad and evil, and then just sort of like manipulating other people or complaining to them, or basically not being of service to others. Because, what we would like to do is to be of service, and that, in my opinion, when you're attempting to be of service, it gives you a purpose to live, a purpose to be. And so when we are attempting to serve others and we clear up our own viewpoints and our own perceptions, and we can be a better lover, a better server to other people. And like they said, this attitude is in itself full of the stuff of your third density illusion. I sort of take that as like, you do your shadow work here, you deal with the distorted perceptions that we have, and as we try to clear those out, and so we can see things for as they are, we start to recognize that all is well, and all we can really do is be ourselves, be of service, attempt to do your best, and what more can you do? Because you could compare yourself to people on social media who only post the most wonderful things of their lives, and you can have a distorted perception, thinking to yourself that you're a terrible person and you should be doing so much better, and you have that guilt which doesn't seem to go away because you're not perfect. Well, my friends, no one is perfect, okay? No one's perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. But within knowing that, you can be imperfectly perfect, right? So and mostly what that comes down to is not always controlling yourself and forcing yourself to be a good person. That wouldn't really be true service or true understanding. What you want to do is you want to try to accept yourself, and through acceptance of yourself, who you are, you start to transform those negative distortions which seem to somewhat run your life, maybe, or that you're like coping and and doing things along those lines, and you're acting out towards others. Well, as you start to work with yourself and accept yourself, you can better love yourself, and then in turn you can find it a lot easier to accept and love other people, because you're not perfect. And so when you see the sort of seeming imperfection in others, it's a lot easier to accept them as they are and try to find a way to serve them, instead of maybe trying to find a way to hate on them or to show them that they're wrong or this or that, right? All we want to do is just attempt to serve. And so what does it mean to see through the illusion? Well, there is in session 80.11 where Ra mentions, and the first three words in this sentence I put just for context, but they state, the seeker seeks true association with the heart of all other selves, and disassociation only from the illusory husks which prevent the adept from correctly perceiving the self and other self as one. End of quote. So I guess what I'm getting at with reading that part is, it's okay to somewhat disassociate from the illusory aspects of this third density illusion that we are in. In other words, anything that stops you from connecting heart to heart with all other selves, right? True association with the heart of all other selves. And we only want to disassociate from the illusory husks. Like a husk is like the outside of a seed, right? And we're not fully concerned with the husk, the outside of the seed of others. We want to get to the heart of them, because that's where we are one. That's where we are connected through the heart of the Creator, through the heart of ourselves, through the heart of others. And so when we can see past sort of the personality shell, right, the illusory personality shell of the husks of other people, then we can better, get to the heart of them. And I often get feedback like that, where I've said this in a podcast or two ago, where I get compliments from people sometimes where someone tries to offend me, but they also state something probably true within their same paragraph or sentence that they're saying to me. And often what I'll do is I'll just ignore the part where they're trying to offend me, right? So I'm going to ignore the illusory husks which they're throwing my way, and I'm going to try to find a way to connect with them where we are, where we're the same, right? Where we can connect on something that makes sense between both of us. Instead of just focusing on where we're different, we're going to try to focus on where we're the same, and then therefore we can have empathy for one another and try to come to a mutual understanding between one another, which should help us perceive the self and other self as one. Okay, but then just sort of taking it back a step, right? In your life, in your general life, it's easy to be overwhelmed with your circumstances. Is it not? Is it not, my friends? So what I've found over my years on this planet is that sometimes I get too focused in on something. I get too worried about certain things, and it kind of causes anxiety and confusion in myself, which is like a negative feedback loop, which only serves to make me feel worse and more worried, and we just go in that loop, that circle, right? So what I've found often is that every once in a while I get into that where I'm looking at something with a magnifying glass, and I'm sort of overlooking it and trying to overanalyze it and try to make sense of it and figure out how I can do this and how I can get out of this, and try to but what I need to do is to back up, right? Back up, my friends. All is well all the time, especially when it seems that it's not. And remember that we're here to do this. We're here to be confused. We're here to learn. We all have different incarnational plans and lessons that we're here to learn. A lot of them have to do with love and wisdom, maybe, but a lot of it has to do with the lessons of love. And so no matter what cards you're dealt, right? There's another quote from Ra, which says, the person who wins the game doesn't necessarily play the hands the best way. The best way to win this game is to lay your cards down on the table, lay everyone else's cards down on the table, and say, you know what? No matter what hands you have, no matter what hands I have, I love you. I love you. I love you. And when you can do that from an authentic place within, you can see the worries just start to melt away. And that isn't to be neutral and not worry about things in your life and just be like meditating 24/7. Like, of course you want to stay grounded in this experience, and you still need to do those human aspects of yourself, do the daily chores as I call them. But you can still do them with that new attitude, with that new behavior, which says, hey, even though I'm doing all of this stuff, I'm not going to necessarily be overthinking it. I'm going to be doing it with a sense of grace and flow, going with what is. These are the cards that I'm dealt today, and so I shall play them, and I shall try to love them and try to love them in others as well, the best that I can. And when you're able to do that, you can start to feel the pressure and the stress and the anxiety just start to melt away. And although it may be temporary, right, we're still in the illusion, third density illusion. The catalyst is often provided to us over and over and over again. And eventually you're going to find yourself, again, with the magnifying glass, over inspecting things, overlooking at things way too close. And you'll once again hopefully be reminded by a show like that, like what I was stating with that Love on the Spectrum, or hopefully somebody like me who kind of gives you that kick in the butt and says, hey, step back, my friend. You're looking at everything too close. All is well. All is well. All is well. and it's easy to say it, of course, right? But so what's another thing that you have to do? Well, sometimes you got to fake it till you make it. Sometimes it's not always so obvious. It's not easy to do that. Sometimes you have to have the faith and the hope that you're just going to go with the flow of what is, try your best in the moment. And, generally speaking, what I find is that the universe, the creator, rewards that thinking. It will reinforce you at a later time to show you that, yes, this thinking that you're going through, this is the appropriate way to do it. You need to let go. You need to accept. You need to love yourself. And also deal with your chores, but mainly you need to love yourself, and then you can also do the chores with a greater sense of ease and flow than you rather would be, where if you're overly anxious and overly stressed and just worrying about everything, you're gonna have bad health, right? The body is a creature of the mind, and so if the mind is all distorted and messed up over a long period of time, it starts to offer that catalyst to the body to kind of wake you up and be like, hey, you can think this way. It's your free will. You can be as worried as you want, but then, I'm going to give you something to worry about, right? Unfortunately, so that's the ways of the free will. And then after you've done dealing with that physical aspect of hopefully healing yourself, and then you're back on the other side of being in a somewhat neutral state. You're not too worried. You've worked on healing and letting go, and then you can kind of start all over again. But often, we get that little kick in the butt from the universe, from the creator, which will deal us that negative hand because we have that negative mindset. And so it's just trying to reflect back to you, what's going on up there in the old thinker, what's going on in your heart. And when you can clear that mind up, I suppose voluntarily rather than somewhat being forced to by the universe and the feedback systems that you have, things can become a lot easier in life. But it is normal to cycle back and to go down and up and down and up, and that's sort of the nature of it. But it's just good to remind ourselves that when we are worrying and we're in those stressful times, that we do need to calm ourselves down. Try our best, like to have a little moment of meditation, sink into the silence, remember all is well, and then we can go about our challenges with more ease and flow than we would be if we were all stressed and anxious and just sort of running in circles, if you will. So when you feel overwhelmed, back up, look at the wider viewpoint, look at your life, right? It might be difficult, but look at some other people out there who are dealt a lot more difficult hands than you are, and yet somehow they are going out and trying their best, and it's so inspirational to see somebody who's dealt difficult hand in life, and yet they are just like a source of love and light to everyone. It's so inspirational, and it's a reminder to yourself that often you don't even necessarily need to physically serve people. It's even just in who you are and the being that you are, and the light that you exude to other people is healing in itself. And so, just be the example that you'd like to see in the world. And what more can you do, my friends? But I just don't want you to underestimate the power of when you are in that all is well type attitude, how it can radiate out to others and serve them too, because they will see that we all deal with similar things. We all deal with distortions in one way or another. And when they see you, being like, hey, you know what? It's okay to feel that way. It's all right. And, things are difficult. Everyone has troubles that they go through. But it's all right, my friends, kind of no words even need to be said. You can just offer a hug and all is well, and remind yourself of that. And then you shall be in easier waters, right? It shouldn't be so chaotic. You don't need to add more chaos to your life than you already have by being down on yourself and feeling guilty and adding pressure to yourself. The universe is going to be giving that to you anyways. And so the more that you can just do it with a sense of ease, the more that that flow shall continue in your life in a positive manner, and you're going to just start to see things with a wider perspective. And hopefully that helps you to relax and just be more at ease, because, the understanding of the third density is that, yes, it's here to confuse us so that it does force us into these sort of ideas. So like, don't feel bad when you are getting confused and overwhelmed. Often the next step shall be that all is well, right? Like eventually we go down so that we can come back up. So I guess that's mostly what I have to say today. If you would like more context on what I'm talking about, go watch a few episodes of that show. Look for that guy, Tanner. I mean, there's a lot of other examples of people who are having difficulties, but he's just such a lovely human being. He has his difficulties, and he's just going out with a huge smile all the time, sharing his light, sharing love, and it's from such an innocent place, like, because they have the mental thing going on that they have. It keeps them like in an innocent and truthful place, and it's just really nice to be able to see yourself even in those people, because often it's more like how you maybe used to see yourself as a child, and that you were very innocent and trying to do good, and then you get older and you become resentful and bitter, and it's easy to get lost and forget the magic in the moment. And the magic in the moment is just spreading kindness and spreading joy, being who you are, trying your best, and you can see the light that it brings out in others as they interact with this just lovely human being. And he's got way more difficult problems than a lot of us who are here. So and it's such an inspiration to see something like that. So I guess that's all I really have to say today. I was trying to keep it short. I do feel like I mostly just said a bunch of stuff over and over again in different ways. But hey, not trying to overthink it. All is well. If you guys appreciate my attempts at this service, once again, just give the podcast a like. You want to leave a comment, let me know what you think. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and just letting you know that I'm going to be going on a little vacation, and haven't gone anywhere international in a few years, or 4 years probably. So I'm really looking forward to sort of unplugging and getting away, and I'm going to go hang out on the beach, and I shall send all of you love from there, okay? But I'll be probably 1 week, maybe 2 weeks off, but I shall be back at this. So hopefully you are all taking care of yourselves in the meantime. And yeah, if you'd like to support this podcast, you can go to theoneinfinitecreator.com, and there's a one-time PayPal or Patreon that I have set up, and it really helps me, do this in a more long-form way. And it helps to support me in ways in which, I can not worry so much, hopefully, about the monetary value of things. And that is one of the things that I often overthink and I'm always worried about. So yeah, come help me out. Jump on that. That would be greatly appreciated. Thank you for everyone who is on it already. If you don't have the extra money to do anything like that, don't worry. No hate. I would appreciate you guys listening and being part of trying to be a good person on earth. And obviously, if you're listening to something like this, you're trying. So that's all we can ask of each other. I love you guys. I hope you have a wonderful next couple of weeks. Take care.